Testing. No viewers, so I don't know if anybody can hear me. Now. Hear me at all now? Are you hearing me? Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
No, yeah.
Now you're hearing me? Okay.
Okay.
We'll kick that sound down a little bit. Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me. We are now live. And I am going to go putter over here real quick to the actual Twitch site. If I can find the window tab. You should be set as a moderator, correct? In Twitch? Valdroth?
I think so.
Okay. Alright. Well, until I get, you know, somebody poking around and viewing, I am going to probably go where? Where do I want to go? Why don't I go poke around the plane of hate? That's relevant. Shard of Hate, Utter Contempt is from Plane of Magic. Do we want to go do that one, or do we just want to wreck the Plane of Hate? I think we might go wreck the Plane of Hate while we wait. Hello! So, right now, I am just about getting ready to go kill in Plane of Hate, because I'm a Dark Elf, and if I didn't start in the Plane of Hate, then what kind of Dark Elf would I be? Today's topic is going to be discussing, kind of following along where I was last time, and discussing the planes of influence and planes of nature. Last stream I discussed the nameless, a little bit about the void, and how the planes came together. And as a quick recap of that, there is creation. That is going to be where we have Norrath, which is the prime and material plane, and then it is bound or constructed or held together by the elemental planes of fire, water, air, and earth. And then there are the planes of chaos that kind of fit in between where the elemental planes touch. And then there is uncreation, oblivion, the end of all things. And what we see as the void really is kind of the interstitial area between uncreation and creation. It's that elemental chaos towards the end of all things, oblivion. It's kind of, oblivion is kind of where, from all lore indicators, it's where the Nameless hangs out, and what he existed in before he created creation. So the void, and then I also posit that there are two versions of the void. There is the void that is a plane, and then there is the void that is space, right? Because in the initial video of EQ, we see Veeshan flying through space before she rakes her claws across the planet of Norrath. And we also know that we have space because in Maj'Dul they give us this lovely astronomy chart with the moons and the different planets. And I am headed to Neriak. Best city ever. All questions and interests are welcome. If my music or anything is too loud, please let me know. I can adjust it. You can send me a message on Discord. You can send me a message in chat, or you can send me a tell in game. I'm on Antonia Bale. The character's name is Dii. I know it's a very creative name. So, I've kind of told you a little bit about how the planes stick together. Ooh, I just recalled something. I don't think I set this new channel up to record streams, so give me just 1 second to make that happen. Oh, also, if you didn't know, I used to stream under the Chroniclers of Norrath stream. The reason I am no longer streaming under the Chroniclers of Norrath stream anymore is because that is owned or run by multiple of us. Chroniclers is a group of people who really enjoy the lore of all the EverQuest games, and somebody else actually created that channel, and every time I went to go live on the channel, I actually had to text him and get the code to log in, and it just became a big hassle. So I went ahead and made this channel for just when I stream by myself, and then when we have more of that group streaming together, I'll pop it over to the Chroniclers channel. And let's see. So I hope everybody's doing alright tonight. Hope you all were really lucky with your Oceansfull clam gathering. I know it took me eternity to actually get my recipes, but I needed them. Because, as a friend of mine said, in-game content really is both fashion and design. sorry for the little bit of delay here as I get this set up, because I know a lot of people, don't view me live, but they'll come back and watch on YouTube. Let's go to Reignited here. Well, it looks like it might be saving it. I don't see the menu where it used to be. Alright. Oh, you have to be level 110. I picked the wrong one. Oh, yeah. I needed to go to the base, Shard of Hate. I don't know that I'm a bad enough Dark Elf yet to take on the 110 Shard of Hate. Alright, so I was opening Excel, for some of you who saw that, in order to pull out some graphics for you that I put together, because I am, if I have not said this enough, a turbo nerd. I really like the lore and story of this game, and as such, I do things like make graphics for it. So for those of you who were tuned in last time on my stream, I went over how I kind of define the world of Norrath in D&D terms, Dungeons and Dragons terms, and I do that very intentionally because it was based off of originally a homebrew D&D campaign, and that one of the original creators was Bill Trost, and he drew a map of the planes and how they connected, and he used very much a D&D art asset style. So you should be able to see here the general style. This map in pencil and paper is Bill Trost's map. It comes from SOE. That's what the copyright is in tiny letters over here. And right here he's got the realm of heroes, the material plane, which is Norrath, right? He's got darkness down here at the bottom. Up at the top there's light, and then you have the elemental planes that are kind of the spokes on a wheel, and in between those spokes are the planes of chaos, and where the planes of chaos hit is where the elemental planes hit or merge, that's where you get the planes of chaos. The planes of chaos do not have gods, and that is confirmed by Malin Starpire in Myrist, which is the plane of knowledge in EQ2. He tells you that they are not stable enough to have a single entity that rules them or manages them. But the gods, or the planes of order, they do have a deity, and that deity or that entity that controls them is bound to the element of its plane, right? So Earth cannot act against Earth's interests. The Wraith Council has to do what is best, or has to follow its path of order and Earth. It cannot deviate from that. If it deviates from that, the Wraith Council would be replaced, and we'd have another god of Earth. So I have that image, and then let me pull up the other one. This is the planes in EQ2 in the plane of knowledge. This is the spoke. As part of the plane of knowledge, or the planes of prophecy, excuse me, timeline, what we do is we find out that there is an instability in these planes, and what's happened is they are falling to chaos. Somebody has taken, basically is mixing up the planes of order, and it's destabilizing creation, because these elemental planes literally tie and anchor and hold creation and keep it from falling into oblivion, from falling into chaos and the void. And what was happening is they were getting mixed. So you would go to the plane of fire and you would find elements of earth and water and things like that. And we eventually find out that it's the elementalist Najina, and she's mixing up the planes, and she's making like an uber planar creature that is a mixture of all the planes, and she's doing it because she's afraid of the Shissar. But with this graphic, one of the things that I did is I layered the two on top of each other so that you can see how they all line up. His drawing lines up. And then, like I said, because I am a nerd, I converted it to a graph. So that people could see how the gods are kind of aspected. And I'm just popping my channel back open so that I can actually see if somebody says something. Okay. So you have the celestial order. These are the gods that are underneath the gods of order. The celestial order are the gods of nature and influence. And on that wheel, if we were to take each of the gods and put them in the category, or each of the planes rather, and put them in the category of where they fit, this is what it would look like. So for instance, love counts as a light chaos-oriented plane because it falls under, on the wheel, it falls under the chaos, under a chaos plane. Right, so over here we have love, and love is a steam, right? Love and valor are both steamy planes, which makes sense because they were created by Sateb Malni, and it's that combination of air and fire. There's got to be a little water in there, right? They're the water that's provided that makes it steam. So love and valor are steam-based chaos, but they're light, they're positive things. And the difference between the planes of influence and the planes of nature is the planes of influence are mortal feelings, they're the way mortals act. They're the way, not just mortals, but planar creatures of the prime plane act and react and think and feel. They are aspects, influence is aspects of sentience. On the other hand, nature is stuff that is the foundation or the building blocks of the world. You can see this in how the plane of sky and the plane of the underfoot are planes that literally layer over Norrath. So, again, back last week I showed how if you go into EQ1 and you teleport up to the plane of sky, well, first, you can't teleport out. But second, when you jump, you actually end up landing in Freeport, in the water right outside of Freeport, showing and indicating that the plane of sky is just really far up there in the atmosphere. And if you fall far enough, you're going to fall into the waters or the land. Hopefully it's the water, because it's still going to kill you, ideally. But, it's fantasy, so we pretend. The underfoot, it's the same. We have multiple entryways into the underfoot in Norrath. You just dig deep enough and you're going to come across Brel's Plane. The Ratanga, how we got the Ratanga in EQ2 was literally they just came up from far enough down under. So, let's see. You know what? I know what I'm going to do. Where is my OBS? Alright. There we go. And I had to add my moderator back to this. There we go. Alright. So, the gods of nature are orderly, right? And that makes perfect sense because if you think about emotions and influences, right? Things that influence sentient creatures, those are chaotic. You can fluctuate at the drop of a dime. Little bitty things can set you off and make you angry, for instance. But things of order, right? You know, the storms are orderly. We hate storms in real life, but storms clear away dead growth, and they provide for new growth, which is why they're counteracted by actual growth. The sky and the ground, right? Those are two strong, hard, firm, definitive things for us. Flames and oceans. So these are all derivatives of the elemental planes. They are all orderly derivatives of the elemental planes. So that's why you have the two categories there of nature and influence. These kind of form a bubble around Norrath, and they are more strongly, from everything that I've seen, the Celestial Order is more strongly tied to Norrath, but there are implications that they are not tied only to Norrath. The biggest implication here is going to be Veeshan. We see Veeshan in EQ1 in that promo video. She is actually out there flying across the land. And that's way too high. I'm just going to go down here and run straight to the name. She is actually flying across in space and, you know, strikes her claws across Norrath. And we're told that the big story that we have tells us that the gods came here. Well, if they came here, they had another place that they came from, right? So the implication is that we can say that the gods may be worshipped in multiple places, right? That Norrath is not the only place that kind of controls the gods or defines the gods. Oh boy, a beacon of loathing. No thanks. So that's where we get... Oop, I lost it again already. I'm just losing things all over the place. We also have planes, so that's where we get kind of the idea of our planes and the idea that they touch more than just Norrath, right? So this is also tied in to D&D terms, because in D&D terms they believe that the places that you can travel to in a plane are only really the places that are closest to your plane of existence, right? So in Norrath's terms, as we go to the plane of fire, we're actually only really touching the plane of fire where it touches Norrath, or where it borders Norrath. We can only cross at that border, because if we were to go too far into fire, we might feasibly be able to cross over to where fire touches, I don't know, one of the nearby planets that we have in our solar system, if there were sentient creatures there, which has never been said no or yes. But we couldn't go too far. We couldn't go to pure fire, because pure fire is too much of its element. It would destroy us, right? So it is possible that, we don't get to see all of these different planes. And some of the evidence that I've said that kind of suggests that is Anashu. So we'll talk a little bit about Anashu. I'm planning on going through all the signature quests to kind of archive all that lore, all the signature and timeline quests, and quests for each expansion, so that we have a good chronicle of it, because a lot of it is just lost. A lot of stuff about these games has been getting lost over time, and the dialogue hasn't been retained. So I plan on doing the deserts, and when I do the Deserts of Flame, we're gonna go over a lot of Anashu. So the core of the story for Anashu is that she was the goddess of health, and she wanted to cure death. She hated death. Death was her antithesis. It hurt her followers. She didn't like it, so she wanted to get rid of it. And so in order to get rid of it, she created undeath. And there's some debate. Some people kind of debate whether she intentionally did it or if she unintentionally did it. That's right, I have to go to the other side first. Or if she was just, because we know that, for instance, that Anoric created the Edal. And the Edal are a race of dark elves that is before the dark elves that you see before you right now, the Teardal. And they were cursed, and they were supposed to be made by a drop of Anoric's blood in the Ewer of Day, which is the vessel that pours out the river of life, the river of health. So some people like to say that Anoric corrupted her intent, and that it's Anoric's fault that undeath came to be. I don't really hold to that one, because there's a lot of lore sources that tend to say that, she actually very much was just trying to cure death, and to go back to our natural order of things. You have the celestial order, which is your gods of nature and influence, and then you have your spiritual order, and your spiritual order seemed to be the soul of the prime plane, is the best way to probably put that. These are also natural aspects of the world that are, unmutable. You have to happen. They are just what happens in a world for life and creation to be sustained. And so that's where you get, I'm going to butcher the names. My pronunciation is always horrible. I apologize. But you get Ahaye, and she is the matron of the dawn, and she's in charge of life, creation, day. And balanced against her is Drenal, who is death, night, and destruction. You know him from the Aetherneer, right? And then I didn't put him in here yet, but there's Sateb Malni, and he is the feral spirit, We have never been told that he has a plane. I would probably say that his plane is the material plane, because he is all creatures' souls. He is the true spirit that beast lords worship and that channelers utilize. That is what the true spirit is. This is so much easier than it used to be. Although, to be fair, even when this was current content, I used to come solo. The first named in here is my Inquisitor, so that I could get Masters. I kind of put Lucklin in there in the spirit deities. Sometimes she's listed as a demigoddess. She's always been, as is fitting for her name, a shadowy kind of figure. We know that she's the goddess of secrets, but she does not fit on that primal order, right? She's not on the wheel, right? She's not in the celestial order. She doesn't have anything to balance her. And the only deities here that don't have anything to balance them are the spirit deities. And let me put in here feral spirit, which is, I guess, the soul of Norrath. And that's going to be a spiritual. And again, I put those in the order category just because they define and they bind Norrath. And who knows, maybe Sateb Malni and Lucklin are supposed to be, kind of balancing each other, and they both straddle the line of good and evil. The feral spirit in and of himself, as I kind of meander between gods, the feral spirit himself is a balanced deity. We really didn't get much of him at all in EQ1, basically at all, but we do see him in EQ2. For this latest quest. Let me see if I can pull up a picture for him, for those of you who might not have actually seen Sateb Malni. You might not have gotten to him yet. Spoilers. Although I feel like if you're watching me, you're probably expecting all the spoilers, huh? Alright, I'm still looking. I'm just poking through. Not that one. That's not the one I meant to bring up. Anybody who wants to join me, I have a Discord, specifically for lore streams that you could join and talk to me or ask questions. Alright. That's a roleplay wedding. From years ago. Speaking of Anashu, here she is talking about Rowan Thiers, the Sentinel of Balance. She's the one who tells us what he is. We kind of knew he was there. Some of us knew a little more because there were hints of him in the stories early on. Alright. Eventually I'm going to get to it. While we wait for that, let's go take on the Sisterhood. So, we have Sateb Malni. We also have never seen Ihaye, the Matron of Dawn. We've never seen her. I actually asked Toby the other day, and he didn't know of any art assets. That doesn't mean she's never been drawn, or that, we don't have an idea of what she looks like. It just means that, it might have been lost, or it's filed under something else. We're going to see if the sisters are going to hate me. Because it used to be, when you came to kill the sisters, that you had to have certain tanks. But who do I want? Alright, Spike got that. Oh, yay. Look at them making each other sick and hateful. Drenal, this is the first time in EQ1 they see Drenal as well, because they kill, in EQ1 you guys kill Khazak Thul. Oh, here we go. Huzzah, I did it. Alright. You kill Khazak Thul and, send him to the Aetherneer. So you guys kind of touch on the Aetherneer there. Here, in EQ2, Khazak Thul being killed, and then we go ahead and kill Ralazek, and that just basically screws up the Aetherneer. It's too much power for Drenal to take care of, because Drenal is meant to really shepherd the souls of mortals. And this kind of goes back to that idea that part of the order, the natural order of things, are the spiritual gods, because the spiritual gods, that's why when the gods die, they go into the Aetherneer, is because they are part of the natural order. So I actually even see the spirits as part of the actual gods of order, and not even the celestial order. I could be absolutely wrong on that, but it makes sense to me, day and night, life and death, creation and destruction, as kind of outside forces that are on that outer section of the wheel. Should almost be there. Got a lot of screenshots. I know that that's probably just a complete surprise with as much. Speaking of Mr. Dead, there's Ralazek. He's the god of war. Ralazek cannot help being what he is, really. And it's just not been kind to him. That's right there when we kill him and we take his power and we give his power to his kids. Alright. I'm hoping we're almost there. Got so many screenshots. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting back to Lucklin. Which some people I've heard call Lukelin. Looselin. I call it Lucklin. If a dev ever watches this, please feel free to send me a message and let me know what the actual proper official way of saying it is, and then I'll do my best. One of my dear friends likes to make fun of me for how I say Anoric. Okay. And y'all, the spoiler, the information at the end of this signature quest, the latest signature quest, where we go up against Ra, oh man, we are in for it. We are really not gonna be happy soon. No, yep, there we go. There's Aten Ha-Ra. And there's Bristlebane. And there's Opal Darkbriar. There we go. Here we go. Sorry that took so long. That is Sateb Malni, the Feral Spirit. Again, he has ties to the sacred spirits. But those sacred spirits are individual spirits of all life on Norrath. He's in charge of all the animal and plant life, whereas Trinal is in charge, Trinal and Hiaye, whatever, are in charge of mortal, I guess, sentient spirits. But this is Sateb Malni, the feral spirit. And he talks to us. And there's some hints here. You hear him? Tell us we're weak, and that we don't know who our foe is. And he says, you may regret your actions. Yep. Because of who we gave the soul of Emperor Saraza to. Yep. Okay. So that's Sateb Malni. Then there are a couple other planes there. I'm going to kind of leave most of them alone. But let's go back to talking about Anashti, since I completely dragged off topic. Anashti decided to make undeath. And the way that this had to have worked is the gods themselves decided that they were mad at Anashti Sul. It was not Rowan Thyr, the god slayer. It was the gods themselves. And they decide that they're going to cast Anashti Sul into the void. Because she made undeath, and they're real not happy about it. And it makes sense why they're real unhappy about it, because quite honestly, Anashti Sul making undeath created an imbalance, right? So all of Norrath, all of creation exists in this balance. This is why the Nameless created the balance. This is actually a joke by the developers, I think. Because what is the biggest challenge in games, multiplayer games, and in MMOs? It's balance, right? Balance is always the challenge. You've got to find parity between classes and parity between, races and sides. If you've got faction, if you've got Kinos versus Freeport or Horde versus Alliance, you have to have that balance. So, I think that the idea that Norrath is very much dependent on balance is kind of a, look at that, it's so pretty. It's kind of a joke. I would just like to say too, look at this place. It is absolutely creepily gorgeous. Look, see, you've got your giant gargoyles over there staring down at you. These trees with the spooky bats. Even the models on like some of these undead. And there's a lot of little tidbits here that are very neat. People, they make use of them later. But people just don't realize. No. The architecture, the Gothic architecture here is just really pretty. This is only a shard of Hate. Hate is actually multiple cities. In Norrath himself, sure, we'll take it. I'll put it on somebody. Has cities upon cities of vampires and undead galore in his area. That's where the Edal lived. The Edal were from Mistmere, which is why we have our oh so convenient Lord Mistmore. Okay, so the gods came here. I will promise to try to stay a little more on track. The gods came here from somewhere else, right? Which implies if they were gods when they came here, when they got to Norrath, they had the power to create beings, to create life, which means that they were gods before then, and they were gods of particular domains before then. So they arrived and are probably being worshipped somewhere else. That's kind of the implication there. Oh, here's Bizola. I had somebody ask me earlier about Bizola. Bizola is a being who was worshipped specifically by ogres and trolls. It's a twin. Bizola and Demetriu were the twins of torment, and you can see their cult worship in the in Neriak. In Third Gate, right? So the dungeon, if you go down into the dungeon, you will see symbols, and you will see, the worship of them by specifically trolls and ogres. Ka-chunk. But see, look at even the shadows and the colors, and look at these skulls. They have different runes on them. I wonder if those runes translate to any actual one of our languages. Yes, I am taking screenshots. Look. And nope. I don't remember what these cloaks are. These are just the... Yeah, we'll definitely take that one. Oh, did I get the mount? I did! Look at that. I don't care about that one. That one's the cloak of hate that you already get. Alright. Bringing my graphic up over here so I can keep myself a little better on target. So let's continue with Anashu. Anashu was the goddess of health. The gods got pissed off at her. They decided to get rid of her. And they did that. Yeah, that's Malevolence and Iron. We are done here. Let's go back to Freeport so that I can change my mentoring. They decided to get rid of her because she unleashed Undeath. Undeath created this unbalance on Norrath. The continued existence of Norrath is dependent on maintaining that balance, right? That's why going back to Khazad-Thul and Ralosek being dead at the same time created an imbalance for Drenal, and it started to cause all kinds of deleterious effects on Norrath. It's because we need a balance. That is how creation exists. It's how creation is bound in the fantasy world. It's all about the balance. That is why in Pop, EQ2 and EQ1, both versions of Pop, the gods were really upset and things were out of whack. It's why we couldn't go into the elemental planes and just do whatever we want and then enter the plane of time. It was a big deal when we entered the plane of time because the plane of time is the soul home of the gods. So if you kill a god there, it's gone and you've created an imbalance and now things are bad. If you go to EQ2, this is what I was talking about earlier, where how parts of fire and water were in the same plane, and it was creating that imbalance. So Anashi creates this imbalance, and rather than let Rowan Thyr deal with it, the gods come in and they say, hey, we're just going to throw her out into the void. Screw her. She's going out into the void. And they chuck her out there. And they do their best to erase all knowledge of Anashti from the world. I didn't even need to come back here. Distracted myself. They didn't do a very good job because they're not Rowan Thyr. When Rowan Thyr destroys a god, he gets rid of all knowledge of that god, unless he's been prevented by sneaky people like we saw in Thalumbra. But for the most part, he gets rid of all knowledge of that god. He gets rid of, anything that I can identify them. Which is why we have races on Norrath that we don't know where they came from. So they chuck her out. That means there's a hole, and we're missing a god of health, right? But it worked out because we were also missing a god of disease not long after. When you talk to Anashti Sul, one of the things that she says is she's surprised because Zul'Varian, who was her counterpoint, the god of disease at the time, is missing. She doesn't know. She's surprised by Bertox being the new god of disease. Which in terms of timelines tells us that Anashti was sent away first, and then Zul'Varian died, which makes me think that, because it's implied heavily that Zul'Varian died to Rowan Thyr, it makes me think that Rowan Thyr was banished to the void by the gods after this. And it might be, it potentially might be, that the 4 gods, or 4 or 5 gods that Rowan Thyr killed, that they may have been killed for banishing Anashti Sul and creating the imbalance. We don't know, but we know that they knew enough to, or at least the goddess of magic knew enough to create shrines to all those gods and to protect all those gods. But there's a lot we don't know. Okay, so now we're just going to go through the top. From the top, actually, no, not Myrist, excuse me. That is not where I want to go. We're going to go to the plane of magic. From the top, we've got love. Love and valor are the elements of steam, like I mentioned. They're hot and fiery. They are chaotic. They drive their deity and the worshippers to kind of act in erratic ways, chaotic ways, right? They are balanced out by hate and fear. And hate and fear are right here across in the mud, right? Because hate and fear are dark, chaotic elements. And, you know, you run in fear, you hide in fear. When you get hateful, you act out of spite. You decide to go into your god's plane and destroy everything. They muddy the waters of your emotions, right? They are weighty and thick, and kind of dampening. So they are mud elements. And love and valor were created by, their gods are Erollisi Marr and Nathaniel Marr, currently. They were created by Teru Marr, who is the god of water, part of the triumvirate of water. And he's an orderly deity, but it turns out he's the orderly deity who's the most interested in paying attention to the prime plane, the material plane. And it's said that he saw, you know, love and valor, and he was just so moved that he decided to turn them into flesh. Originally, we only knew Erollisi Marr as the goddess of love, but she's more and more become kind of an Artemis figure, or an Artemis slash Aphrodite slash Athena figure from kind of Greek mythos, and you see that with Verigro, who is a demigod, kind of falling for her. And the reason I came here is because we can usually see her. I could have sworn there's Verig. Well, maybe I lied to you guys. Maybe we don't see her here. Maybe it's only when you're on the quest. But that's okay. We'll see her big brother here, the Truthbringer. He wants you to slap into a Slim Jim. He's all about valor and honor. And I am just going to go ahead and pull up some EQ1. Oh. Give me 1 minute. Need to tell my moderator something. I have new unreads. Alright, I'm just checking a couple of okay. I got a ping. My moderator also happens to be my DM, and so I got a ping about our D&D game. So I just had to kind of make sure that my DM knew. All right. Back to... How about we don't open that? Oh, it looks like I got a message on the stream, maybe? Somebody might have sent me a message. Maybe. Nope, okay. It looked like I had one, but I don't see it there now. Okay. So this is Nathaniel Marr, and I am going to, I think, pop into EQ1 as well, just because, as much as I don't like Nathaniel Marr, because I am a true blue dark elf, all the way down to my heart, Inkies for life, the Halls of Honor in EQ1 are actually really, really pretty. And that's where we first encounter him. Also interesting to note is in EQ1, you go into the plane of time, and there are beings that actually live in this timeless state, and they don't know how or why they got to plane of time. They just know that they were doing one thing, and the next thing they know, they ended up in the plane of time. And there are a significant number of Nathaniel Marr's followers who have ended up in the plane of time. Alright, I'm logging into Q2. Okay, so there's Nathaniel. And so let's kind of revisit this idea of gods killing or not being able to be killed. Because when we first meet Erollisi Marr, we think she's dead, right? We think that she's been killed by Enoric's forces, right? And that she's dead, and Nathaniel Marr is really crying about it, and very, very unhappy. Clearly, like I said, he needed to snap into a Slim Jim. And if you don't get that reference, thanks for making me feel old. We'll do it as an agnostic, why not? But look up the Macho Man Randy Savage, because really there is no way Nathaniel Marr is not meant to be the Macho Man Randy Savage. While we load, there's the Macho Man Randy Savage for you. Oh yeah. And he had his snap into a Slim Jim commercials. So this is the first moment when we meet Erollisi. She later becomes the huntress. We see her doing a bit of all kinds of hunting. So we come in here. I don't want to plant any seeds. I'm not worried about it. Why would I want to plant seeds of love? I am a dark elf. And I worship the god of hate. So for every god, there is the positive and the negative, right? So I started us out in hate, because I am a dark elf, and we've really got to give all love to any. Shut up, it makes total sense. But you have hate and fear that are the antithesis of bravery and honor and love. There's no real aspect of hunting so much, really. The hunting aspects for Erollisi really seem to have come later and seem to be a newer carnation of her, and not so much her traditional incarnation. Oh, okay. Don't mind me, I am running 2 characters at once. So let's go up here. You know what? We'll do this. Give me my mercenary. And we'll just run up here and have the mercenary start slaughtering stuff. Kill everything for me over here. While I... Thanks, Clazzle. So this is a shard of love. We got a shard of love and a shard of hate. It's all pinks, and you can see it's how it's all damaged and destroyed. And even here, there's really not much of an aspect of the hunter, other than it's the forest and the woods, and then she has, you know, they call... One of the things deers are called sometimes is hearts. But there's not a real... Oh, see, isn't that interesting? I never noticed this before. They're mourning, they're mourning the loss of Erollisi, but they are, succumbing to fear. See? They want you to fear. They want to bring terror. Dreams of death and nightmare. Almost like they're being infiltrated by Terrasul. I have never noticed that before. Alright. And where is my gate spell in EQ1? There we go. Alright. Now we're going to the... Now up here we see these are, eternal guardians. These are guardians set up by Nathaniel himself. They are his guardians because he's like, oh no, my sister is dead, I'm going to cry about it, my sister is dead. And he locks her body up in a coffin, and he literally seals this whole place up. Because he's dumb like that. And see there, you can see a little bit of the bow and arrow, and her very, very destroyed tower. And there's his seal on the door. And I am headed to Halls of Honor on EQ. And I'll pop that over to the main screen in a minute. I'm mostly just kind of trying to get some of that dialogue for people. Even for somebody like me, I haven't played in Shard of Love in a very long time. Even when I do it in For Erollisi's day, it's a different experience. Alright, let's just go over here. And see, if you notice, that creature's name was the Just, right? It was Valoron the Just, right? So these are all guardians and creatures that Nathaniel Marr has done here to essentially put his sister's plane in stasis. And again, what is he doing with that? He's creating an imbalance, right? Because he's very sad, but also because he's very dumb. So here, you see how he says, get away, leave me alone in my sadness, right? I cannot take it anymore. He's so sad. He misses her so much. So here, Father and Fathom Lord. In our moment of valor, we've opened their eyes. Here you go. I justified keeping her here for so long, but the truth was I was weak. And it used to be you would actually see her body in there. I did not wish to know any existence without her, so I stayed under a shroud of guilt and sorrow and anger, refusing to let her go. You did not have to give yourself in my place, dear sister, but I should have expected no less from love. You foiled a heinous plan concocted by hate, thus robbing them of one success, while I foolishly handed them another. So we don't know what this is. We don't know how this happens. We aren't given this information. To my knowledge, somebody else might know, and I could be incorrect. I've been incorrect about numerous things, so it would not surprise me. But to my knowledge, we don't know what this plan exactly was that killed Erollisi. I think we're given some hints, but not an exact answer. Yep, and he frees his sister's body. And now she is free. May your essence find its final resting place, be in this existence or another. And here is the part that we need to mention here. Gods, unless they're killed specifically by Rowan Thier, gods, or somebody kills them in, like their true soul spirit is killed in time, gods can't die. You can destroy them, and they can have somebody can take their place, like we did with Rallo-Zek. We weakened him, destroyed him, then hit him with the swords of destiny, and then his children took his power while his body and self died. Or similar happened with Khazak-Thul, but even though Khazak-Thul was supposedly dead and he was in the Aetherneer in EQ1, what's happened is another god was trying to actually, an Illyrian god was trying to take over his power and to assume his position. I think his name is Zarek. And if you have not heard those lines delivered from Lucklin, they are just beautifully delivered. I will have to see if I can find them. But even then, at the very end, Lucklin tells us that no, Khazak is not dead. He's gonna come back. He's basically, there's shards of him, but as long as he is being worshipped, he will come back. And so there's a shrine to Erollisi in Hallis. They call this area Erollis. See, the island of Erollis. So they are very, very much worshipping her. And so she isn't actually dead. He was just stupid and not thinking, and she slowly but surely is able, once he breaks the seal, she's able to start to collect her power again and collect the worship, and she reconstitutes herself. We see her avatar again. So Nathaniel Marr and Erollisi Marr are the creators of the barbarians. As the creators of the barbarians, that means they are also responsible for humans, because humans evolved from barbarians, and from the humans evolved the erudites, or they call themselves the Hymen. And I just realized how that sounded. But because their foreheads were so high in EQ1, I guess because some special adaptation for the knowledge, or the other thing is they had really big egos. They thought they were high and mighty and better than everybody else. So they created the barbarians. There are a couple different stories of how they created the barbarians. One of the stories is that Terrace Thule stole Nathaniel Marr's essence and was imprisoning him, and that Moral Thule, as an act of defiance, took Nathaniel's essence and spread it out among the froglocks, and then implanted the rest into Erollisi. So basically, you could say that the barbarians are a result of incest, and that she actually physically gave birth to them. I find that to be questionable for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is if you were actually physically born from the seed of a god into a goddess, you would actually be divine, and there's been no sign of divinity in the barbarians. So I kind of think that's just a parable. The froglocks are also supposed to be Nathaniel's creation, but again, it's that, did he create the froglocks or did he elevate the froglocks? And I think the inclination there is that he just elevated the froglocks. Okay, there's justice. There's valor right there. Let's get back over here. So we were in Plane of Magic there. In EQ1, Plane of Magic really fits in more as a demi-plane, or a demi-goddess. But when you get to EQ2, it's really different, actually. In EQ2, I think that Drizzle Row is more of a god. She's taken, again, when the gods pulled away from Norrath, they shattered their own power, and that they allowed that power to kind of be sitting out there. And I think that Drizzle Row picked up some of that power. I think that some, mortals like Bizola and Demetriou picked that up. I think some of the dragons probably picked up that power, and it just kind of got spread around. Alright, so we've got Nathaniel Marr, and I've had 0 questions today. You can always call me a blueberry tart. I do have messages. I just missed them. Hi, y'all. We haven't translated these runes. I'm going to have to see if we can do that. Okay, and here I am in EQ1. Just flipping over for a second, and we'll probably need to invis. Not that we can't take it. This is old content, but this is the Plane of Valor. I am very much a dark elf, even in this game, and they hate me. So, these are the Valorian guards. You can see they have like a coliseum. Again, it's very... Nathaniel and Erollisi are very Greco-Roman. There's a very, very heavy Greco-Roman influence here. You've got the sentries. Oh, a little bit of lag. A little bit of lag. It's run into two games. Plus other stuff. So there's the soldiers. You know, and you could hail them if you had the good enough faction. Pro tip, I don't. I killed the hell out of these guys. And so see, there's a froglock. So... And it's about what you would think. Yeah. There's a name for you. One of my favorites. I'd forgotten about that one. But there's a lot of soldiers and fighting for honor and valor. As if... Nathaniel Marr is weird because there's more to valor than just being a soldier. I mean, the truest forms of courage are people who, have the courage to act or not act, not necessarily show violence, but the courage to stand up in the face of violence and not be violent back. But you can see it's just legions and legions of fighters standing in front of maps and strategies. More about what you would expect in Rallis X-Plane, really. Or the Tower of Tactics, or something like that. But no, this is the bridge that goes across. And this over here, I think, is the Crystalline Wastes, where, yeah. This is, again, some of these things never quite made sense. Why we have all these crystalline golems over here that are destroying, that they have to attack. Other than, I guess, maybe he thought they needed something to fight against. Lots of soldiers, like I said. And an interesting door. Also, not a very effective door, I would think, because it makes it very easy. A revolving door makes it really easy for your enemies to get in. See, there's lots of just golems and critters and big dark ore and spiders. I don't even remember. I remember this part. I don't remember what's in this little cave. So we're going to check it out. So the other chaos gods, while I am checking this out, I don't remember how to get through there. There's something to do to get through there, but I sure don't remember it. Looks like it should have been in there somewhere. I don't know. We'll just go back to Halls of Honor. Oh, there's Drenal. So you can see Drenal from the plains even. Okay. The other gods of chaos that we have are, ironically, Mischief, so Bristlebane, and Peace, Quellius. And again, you might not think that those are chaotic things, but, well, okay, you would think that Mischief is, because we all see how Mischief could be a chaotic thing, right? But it's harder to see how Peace would be a chaotic influence. But Peace and Tranquility are really, really closely related to apathy. When you don't have conflict, you don't have room to grow. Without the face of adversity, you don't really get to understand the true measure of yourself. So, and without that, again, without growth, you can't evolve, and that is one of the quintessential things of life. Too much peace. Oh, I ran into the ended part. Oh well, we're just gonna do train to the zone. Choo choo. Choo choo. Which grave is it? Choo choo. I mean, you can't really hurt me, but choo choo. Choo choo. Okay. So while we zone, we go back over here, and we are in the chaos again, and we're looking at Mischief and Peace. And Mischief and Peace are part of fog. So it's a mixture of water and air, right? Because again, Mischief, you know, the reasoning behind Mischief can be foggy. To put that into perspective, let's talk about all these pranks that we see that people do on their significant others, right? Where they terrify their significant others. You know, there was one prank I saw where this guy thinks that he is going to prank his girlfriend by saying that he cheated on her and he got this other woman pregnant. And she knows about it because his friend who he was working with for this told her. So she cross pranks him and has set up a prank where she pretends to kill herself. And they set this all up, and to me, those kind of pranks they're a little foggy, right? You love somebody, and yet you're terrifying them this much, right? A little foggy. I mean, it's funny to watch for me because I know that it's not real, but it's not funny for the person in the minute. So that's how Mischief kind of fits there, and Peace fits there because, again, just what I was kind of saying before. When there's too much peace, if you've ever been out of work for a while, if you've ever not been able to go outside and hang out with people, and you've been stuck in your house and really haven't been able to do much, then you kind of understand how the peacefulness of your house can lead to a fog. I don't know if anybody has experienced that anytime recently, but, you know. Oh, there's a symbol for the Halls of Honor. It's a heart punch. So back to our image over here. Counteracting Mischief and Peace, we have Justice and War. And it's not a surprise that those are chaotic planes. Well, it might not be a surprise to some people. Justice is not blind. Justice is justice in EQ is relative justice, right? So in theory, the gods try you based upon the rules and standards of your society, right? That's the only way to be fair, is to judge you based on the rules and standards of your society. There's Nathaniel Marr. There's a great statue of him. We're gonna... We got some great music for it too, right? I'm gonna get us to see a Rulon. And see again, very Greco-Roman, right? Greco-Roman. You see the big pillars, the big white buildings. It's that, see even here, these are almost stock images. They may even be stock images that got adjusted to be textures for these columns. Bards used to solo this entire zone, and I do mean this entire zone, including the names. They could kite everything. If you don't know what kiting is, because it's not as much of a thing in EQ2 as it was in EQ1, they would snare it and dot it and run away. So they'd run them in big, giant piles all the way around. Where are my Rulons? Here, kitty, 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 kitty. So justice is not blind. Justice is heavily based in, yep, see, there's your, and again, Halls of Honor is part of the, oops, sorry, didn't mean to give you that, but, Halls of Honor is part of Nathaniel Marr's plane. I'm really looking for the kitties. And see, there's those busts. All very Colosseum-ish. Right? Alright, I cannot find the kitties, so we're just going to head out so that I can show you the Plane of Justice. So it's supposed to be an EQ in the world of Norrath. It's supposed to be relative justice, right? But it's not. One of the greatest examples of this is in EQ2 that they give you is Tael Nevelix. And so what Tael does is she ends up working for, she betrays Luke and Delir, and then she betrays, some would say Norrath, because she wants power, and she wants control of Freeport, and she is serving Rowan Thyr, right? So if you're serving Rowan Thyr, the Sentinel of Balance, you're not betraying Norrath. You're doing what was supposed to be. You're restoring balance, right? And if you are betraying people as a Dark Elf, that's not wrong against our culture as a Dark Elf. Like, betrayal is an art form if you're a Dark Elf. It's something that is very common, you know. There's story upon story about the Dark Elves betraying each other and getting caught for it. So when she's taken to the Plane of Justice and she's imprisoned there as a betrayer of the world, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Because who did she betray? That, I mean, relative justice would say that she didn't actually violate anything. And you see a lot of that. Oh, there's the Plane of Valor symbol. In the Plane of Justice. Where is the Plane of Justice? Oh, that's right. It's down this way. Again, apologies for some of this slow and rambly. I didn't really have a plan of what I was going to talk about until, I don't know, maybe not even an hour before I started talking. There's the Plane of Justice. If you couldn't tell by the giant scales. We all know how war is a dark influence. Most people wouldn't think that justice is a dark, chaotic influence, but justice is one of the most corruptible forces, right? It's not blind. It's always being used. Almost, we could say, inappropriately. And it's always contingent. So it's not really great. So here's their justice. In the Plane of Justice, they actually do execute. That is one of the things you do, or you encounter in Plane of Justice in EQ 1. Trying to remember. Aha, now I've gotten my way to... Okay, let's see. She might hate me. We'll see. Let's see what happens if I turn myself into a barbarian. And war, honestly, we've talked about Ralisek a lot. I don't think we need to necessarily talk about how those are fit in lava. Again, earth and fire, they're grounded. You know, there might be reasons for them, but there we go. I don't want to talk to anyone. Go away. Don't ask me why. Why? Aren't you dense? Well, I cannot say I did not expect it from a barbarian. Aren't you afraid you're going to end up like my husband? My husband was Suli Baneth. He was a foul drunk, worst of sorts. Never an honest day of work in his life. Well, I found a man worth my time, so a little hemlock and Suli's ale at night, and he didn't wake up. I guess his family was upset about it, so they petitioned to send me here. So, she's imprisoned because she killed her husband. And the question is, to me, what are they going to do to her? Right? Are they going to kill her? What does that mean for her? If you get killed here in the, speaking of the Century of Justice, there you go. Is your spirit or self gone? And this guy doesn't look like he's being taken care of very well. Some of the most interesting stories come out of this zone, by the way. So let's turn into an XR. Let's move on to the Gods of Order. We know, if you don't know by now, then you probably haven't been paying attention to me, that Anoric made the Dark Elves. He also made the Edal. He clearly wants somebody to tell him. No one said me. Haha, yep. I hope you are not here to free a prisoner. one such as I. Oh, apparently Emperor Slanar was the ruler of Sebulis. Nice little story there. So he's from Sebulis, the Sebulisian Empire. I know one of my watchers is Ixay. Moderator. I need modding. Alright, let's remove that illusion. Kazakh Thul made a lot of different races, not the least of which are the Ixar. He made the Amygdala. Oh, let me... the Tribunal doesn't seem to have made any exterior races except for, you know, all the bailiffs and creatures that are here. Ralosek made a ton of things. He made the orcs. He made well, I don't think he made the... No, he did. He made the goblins. Some stories say he made the Shisar. I don't know that he made the goblins. It's been a while. Yeah, so here we have somebody who is being imprisoned for a while because they said that the hero wasn't around, that they scouted and didn't see the hero because they got distracted and, you know, wanted to enjoy the day, and instead somebody else who went on a trip died. But they knew that they were going to a dangerous place. So, how just is it for her to be held here for ages, waiting for a trial that could come whenever? You do see more barbarians here, but that's because more barbarians tend to apply to the tribunal for justice, because they are strict believers. They're big believers in the tribunal. It's one of the gods that they worship a lot. So see, here it is, he was an assassin, and he is, but when his lover failed to, or failed a test, the group of assassins that he was in wanted to kill her, and he refused to let her be killed, and he protected her and hid her away. And so now he has ended up in the plane of justice, not for being a killer, but for protecting the one that he loves. So again, makes that idea of justice questionable and chaotic, because again, it's not, there's no uniform standard, there's no uniform thing that applies. Relis made the orcs, he made the ogres, he just, honestly, he made a ton of races, and those races that he didn't make, he tended to kind of convert, like the Kierig Dal, which are dark elves that were stuck with him. So he's got a lot of races under his belt. And double checking chat. I could get into the gods of order and the gods of nature, but I think I'm just going to end a little bit on talking about the derivative planes, the non-derivative planes, and next time I will kind of go into the gods of order. I'm actually waiting, hopefully I'll have a dev response on one of my questions about the gods of order soon. So let's just look at some of these other planes real quick. I call these non-derivative planes of existence, because the derivative planes of existence would be things like demi-planes. Ultera. So Ultera is our ethereal plane in D&D terms. It's the plane of travel. It is how you get you use teleportation magic. It is how the teleports still work in EQ2. Because there is an anchor in Quelul. The Akashic Never There, most people probably haven't heard of it. It is the astral plane. It is the plane of the arcane. So to put those into perspective, I'm grabbing my notes. So the astral plane is like the realm of thought and dream, and magic. It is kind of an arcane realm, and we find out in EQ 2 by doing a quest for Bellinger the 3 that he has a realm constructed there. So a dimensional pocket exists there. You also do other things for him as part of the Mage Epic, and it's that idea that your personal arcanum comes from there. Ultera, being the ethereal plane, is a misty fog-bound plane, which you can kind of see if you go to Stonebrut Highlands and things like that. If you look off in the distance, yes, it's got that planar expanse that you see, which is that orangish yellow color, but it's also foggy. We see this too in some of like the Chronomancer portals or the dream portals that come up. We are using that to travel too, and we have this dimensional kind of space, and it's got that foggy quality to it. Knowledge, I say, is unbalanced because we don't have a counter to it that we know of, but knowledge could also be good or evil, bad or good, so it kind of can sit there as its own independent thing, much in the same way that the feral spirit does exist. Knowledge is ruled by Zebuxoruk, and it is an interesting plane because Zebuxoruk is the ungod, the betrayer, and we have a quest or a book in EQ2 that tells us how he ascended himself, basically. That he basically learned enough that he became a god. He was able to become a god. And he is called the betrayer because he passed that knowledge on to other mortals, and that allowed us to enter the plane of time and attack the gods in their soul home. And then that's when Jersarol shows back up and she turns back time, and she whisks him off, and he is actually imprisoned in the void in EQ1. In EQ2, he realized bad stuff was coming. He knew that the Council of Gods was going to happen. They were going to pull away from mortals, and so he actually put part of his body inside of, or his power and his soul. He created a demigod, and he put that into Cheldrak, which is a dragon turtle in the island of Mara, and he had taught he taught the people there and kept enough of his knowledge to be able to pass knowledge and information on to people of the island, so that he continued the spread of knowledge, so he continued some of his domain of power, but without actually being, his full self. And then what happens is we awaken him, and we awaken him before one of the prophecies of the Ethernauts starts to take hold, and he tells us a little bit about that it's coming. So let's talk in the last few minutes that I have. We're going to do a quick rundown of Oceansfull. So Oceansfull is a festival in EQ2. I think they have it in EQ1 now too. And it is the celebration of Praxis. And what better way to celebrate Praxis than to go kill him? Right? Right. So Praxis was one of the original gods on Norrath, and he made the original deal. And the race that he's most well known for creating is the Kedge. And the Kedge were, some say cursed, some say blessed. The Kedge could only number a certain number of them. There would only ever be a certain number of Kedge, and then when you died, another Kedge could be born. And it was his balance. Go away, Class Laza. And I apologize if there's any jerkiness. My computer's not liking. Alright. I gotta redo my mount. So, that's really the only one that was hard defined as a Prexian creation that we knew about. But we now know that the Ulthork, which are the walrus people, and the Othmere, which are the otter people, were created by Praxis. And we also know that he created the sentient, what you would kind of call the dragon turtles in D&D terms, the giant turtles of the sea, the behemoths of the sea. He created those. And Lodazal, like Lodazal. And So, if we've all heard the story about how the gods abandoned Norrath, and as they were getting ready to abandon Norrath, we hear about how you had the avatar of Quellius, and you had the avatar of War, and the avatar of Flame, and, you know, all of these different avatars that showed up, right? But what you don't hear about is how Praxis pulled Lodazal into his plane to save him from attack in the past, and then turned around and turned him into his avatar, imbued him with his power. So Lodazal is actually the avatar of Praxis. And he told him to hide, basically, and then he gave the Othmir a vision of the dangers that were coming to them during the cataclysms, you know, as a side effect of what was going to happen of the rending and the shattering. And he warned the Othmir and said, hey, you need to get out. And those that did were allowed to travel on the back of Lodazal, his avatar. So he saved his people too. Now, one of my questions here is, are the Talavan Praxian creatures? This is Praxis. He looks pretty awesome, I think. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I think he looks pretty good. So Oceansfull is a recognition of that. It is a honoring of that. It's a celebration of the fact that Praxis did this. Praxis took care of his people. He took care of his creatures. He took care of his children when the other gods didn't, you know. The other gods' avatars basically disappeared pretty quickly after the war was over. They just said, okay, the war's over, peaced out. Lodazal stayed. Lodazal still has power. And in fact, he has a speaker, somebody who can speak to him. And he's how we get to the main way we get to Velius, which had been cut off because the seas were too rough. And Oceansfull is the Othmir, only the Othmir, and I guess now it's land dwellers, but not like the Ulthorc. The Ulthorc actually try to undermine Oceansfull, but Oceansfull is the Othmir's way of saying, thanks, Praxis, you provide for us, you've taken care of us, you know, you've guided us, you've never abandoned us, and we want to give thanks to you. And that's what it celebrates. And the counterpoint to that is that, in counter to that, Praxis gives us gifts. In the clans all have the different gifts. And that is what Oceansfull is. That's about all the story that we've gotten from Oceansfull. And with that, I am going to call it right on time. Thank you to those of you who tuned in, either, you know, right now live or when this goes up in video. I hope you enjoyed the things that I talked about. As I always say, if you have suggestions on how I can improve, I would love to hear them. If you have topics that you would like to cover, I would love to hear that. You can catch me on Twitter, most social media as Lore Warned, LOREWARNED. You can find me in game on Antonia Bale as DII. You can find me in EQ1 on Zigany as Obsidian. You can catch me in Discord on the official EQ or EQ2 Discords as Why Hello Thar, THAR. And I am happy to take messages, tells, whatever. Any kind of feedback I can get. I would love to be able to help more people enjoy this game the way that I do, or to know those things that they may have heard about during a raid and then kind of forgot and wanted to know more about. And if you have suggestions, feedback, please let me know. I am hoping to do this more regularly in the near future, and have a stable schedule so you can kind of tune in, or at least know when you might have some information coming your way. The one other thing I have is I have created a lore site, a new lore site. All the lore sites that I saw were not being currently updated. This lore site includes material from all canon sources. Canon to me is not what canon is to everybody else. Any canon sources to me is something that is officially licensed, whether it be the maps of Myrist, the pen and paper games, the comic books, the novels. All of that is canon to me. So all of that information will be on that site, but it will be sourced so you will know where it came from. It's up. You can go to it. It's named after the Plane of Shadow. It's Oscuris, OSCURIS.com. If you are interested in helping me compile and get lore for that game, or for your game, whatever one you play, whether it be EQ, EQ2, EQ Online Adventures. Yes, that game is making a comeback on a fan server. I would appreciate the help. Right now, it's basically just me. I just got somebody else who's going to volunteer to help pull stuff up. All the posts will have your name on them, not my name on them. And I would love help. I want to make sure that we have a good archive of all the stories that are going on, because I think that this game is pretty amazing. The stories are pretty amazing. They've kept my attention for, 2 decades now, and honestly, I know that I'm not the only one. I've talked to a lot of people who love the story and the world, and it's been, 21 years. 21 to 22 years, really. 22 years, because this game came out, and EverQuest 1 came out in 99. That this game has had this world and this history, and it's just been, fascinating to me and to others. So if you can help me archive it and make sure that we get that information. I know even the devs don't have access to everything now. Again, thank you all, and I hope you have a great evening. See you next time.